When worlds collide, the crystal chandeliers of the Metropolitan Art Gallery cast dancing shadows across walls adorned with priceless masterpieces. Sophia Bennett moved through the crowd with practiced grace, her vintage emerald dress a careful choice that spoke of elegance without revealing the 3 months of overtime shifts it had taken to afford it. At 29, she had dedicated her life to art, working as a junior curator while dreaming of one day having her own gallery. Tonight's charity auction represented everything she aspired to, yet also everything that felt impossibly out of reach. She paused before a Renaissance painting, losing herself in the brushstrokes that had survived 5 centuries. The artist had captured something eternal, a moment of human emotion frozen in time. Sophia believed that great art revealed truth, and she had spent years learning to see beyond surface beauty into the soul of each piece. Admiring the investment potential? A deep voice interrupted her reverie, rich with subtle sarcasm. Sophia turned to find herself looking up at the most striking man she had ever encountered. He stood well over 6 feet tall, his frame imposing in a perfectly tailored midnight blue suit that probably cost more than her annual salary. Dark hair swept back from a face that could have been carved from marble, all sharp angles and aristocratic features. But it was his eyes that held her captive, steel gray and intelligent, studying her with an intensity that made her pulse quicken unexpectedly. She recognized him instantly. Alexander Kane, the tech billionaire whose software innovations had revolutionized artificial intelligence. At 34, he had built an empire worth billions, yet remained notoriously private, rarely appearing at social events. The media called him brilliant but cold, a genius who understood machines better than people. Actually, Sophia replied, recovering her composure, I was admiring the way the artist captured the subject's desperation behind their smile. See how the light falls across the face? It reveals vulnerability the subject tried to hide. That's not about investment. That's about truth. Alexander's expression shifted slightly, surprise flickering across his features before his controlled mask returned. An unusual perspective. Most people here see dollar signs, not deeper meaning. Then most people are looking at art all wrong, Sophia said boldly, surprising herself with her directness. Something about his arrogant assumption irritated her. Art isn't currency. It's conversation across time. If you reduce it to investment portfolios, you miss the entire point. For a moment, Alexander simply stared at her, and Sophia worried she had overstepped. Criticizing a billionaire's worldview at a charity event where networking meant everything could be career suicide. But then something unexpected happened. He smiled, a genuine expression that transformed his austere features into something devastatingly attractive. I'm Alexander Kane, he said, extending his hand. I know who you are, Sophia replied, accepting his handshake. His grip was firm, warm, sending an electric jolt up her arm that she tried desperately to ignore. Sophia Bennett, junior curator. Tell me, Sophia Bennett, what else am I looking at wrong? The challenge in his voice sparked something competitive within her. For the next hour, they moved through the gallery together, Sophia explaining the stories behind each piece while Alexander listened with surprising attentiveness. He asked intelligent questions, revealing a mind that absorbed information rapidly and made unexpected connections. Despite herself, Sophia found she enjoyed sparring with him intellectually. Your collection, Sophia ventured as they paused before a modern abstract piece. I've read about it in art journals. $15 million worth of contemporary works, all acquired within the last 5 years. You've researched me? Alexander's tone held amusement. I research all major collectors, Sophia said, feeling heat rise in her cheeks. Your collection is impressive in scale but lacks cohesion. It's like you're buying trophies instead of building a conversation. Each piece is brilliant individually, but together they say nothing about you. The words escaped before she could stop them, and Sophia immediately regretted her bluntness. Insulting a billionaire's taste was probably not the best career strategy, but Alexander didn't look offended. Instead, his eyes gleamed with something that looked almost like respect. You're right, he said quietly. I hired consultants who told me what would appreciate in value. I never considered what the collection said about me. He paused, studying her with renewed interest. Would you be willing to help me change that? Sophia's breath caught. Help you? Consult on my collection. Teach me to see what you see. I'll pay whatever rate you consider appropriate. Her practical mind immediately calculated what such a commission could mean. Enough to pay off student loans, enough to finally save for her own gallery, enough to change her life. But another part of her hesitated, sensing that accepting Alexander Kane's offer would lead somewhere complicated and potentially dangerous. I'd need to see your current collection first, she heard herself saying, to understand what we're working with. Tomorrow. I'll send a car for you at 10. It wasn't a question, but a statement, delivered with the confidence of someone accustomed to having his requests fulfilled. The next morning, Sophia found herself in a sleek black car heading toward Alexander's estate in the hills overlooking the city. She had dressed professionally in a simple navy dress and practical heels, determined to maintain appropriate boundaries. This was business, nothing more, despite the way her heart had raced all night remembering the intensity of his gaze. The estate took her breath away. Modern architecture melded seamlessly with natural landscape, all glass and clean lines that somehow felt warm rather than cold. A housekeeper led her through vast rooms to a private gallery space that rivaled some museums. And there, waiting among millions of dollars worth of art, stood Alexander in casual jeans and a black sweater that emphasized his athletic build. He looked younger, less intimidating and somehow even more attractive than he had in formal wear. "Thank you for coming," he said, his voice softer than she remembered. "I realized last night that I've been collecting art the same way I approach business, strategically, analytically, but without any real passion. You made me see that I've been missing something essential." They spent the morning walking through his collection, and Sophia gradually understood the man behind the purchases. Each piece had been selected based on expert recommendations, creating a museum-quality assemblage that felt emotionally hollow. Alexander admitted he rarely spent time in this gallery, treating it more as an investment portfolio than a personal sanctuary. "Art should move you," Sophia explained, standing before a stunning but cold modernist sculpture. "It should make you feel something, even if that feeling is discomfort or confusion. Your collection is perfect, but perfection without passion is just expensive decoration." Alexander moved closer, close enough that she could smell his subtle cologne, something woody and masculine that made her head swim slightly. "What would you choose? If you were building a collection that reflected who you are, what would it look like?" Sophia found herself opening up, describing her love for Renaissance paintings that captured human emotion, her fascination with contemporary artists who challenged conventions, her belief that the best art balanced technical mastery with raw feeling. As she spoke, she became aware that Alexander wasn't just listening politely. He was absorbing every word, his eyes never leaving her face, studying her with the same intensity he probably brought to solving complex technological problems. "You're passionate about this," he observed. "It's beautiful to watch." The comment, spoken so simply, made Sophia's heart stutter. She looked up at him, suddenly aware of how close they were standing, of the heat radiating from his body, of the way his gaze had softened from analytical to something warmer and more dangerous. "I should maintain professional distance," she said, but her voice came out breathless. "Should you?" Alexander reached out, his fingers gently tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. The touch sent shivers cascading down her spine. "I hired you as a consultant, Sophia. But I'm realizing that what I really want is to understand you, the way you see the world, the passion you bring to everything you care about. You're the most interesting person I've met in years." "You don't know me," Sophia protested weakly, even as her body swayed toward his. "Then let me know you." His hand cupped her cheek, thumb tracing her jawline with devastating gentleness. "Have dinner with me tonight, not as consultant and client, as two people who seem to share something unexpected." Sophia knew she should refuse. Everything about this situation violated her carefully maintained boundaries. Alexander Kane existed in a stratosphere so far above her own reality that any connection between them seemed impossible. He was sophisticated, wealthy beyond imagination, accustomed to a world she had only glimpsed through gallery openings and charity events. She was a struggling curator who counted every dollar, whose apartment was a fifth the size of his gallery. But when she looked into his eyes, she saw something that transcended wealth and status. She saw loneliness. She saw intelligence that rarely found true connection. She saw a man who had built walls as carefully as she had, and who seemed as surprised as she was by the chemistry crackling between them. Dinner, she agreed softly, but somewhere normal. Not some five-star restaurant where I'll feel completely out of place. Alexander's smile transformed his face again, revealing genuine warmth beneath his controlled exterior. I know just the place. That evening, he took her to a small Italian restaurant tucked away in a quiet neighborhood. The kind of family-owned establishment where plastic checkered tablecloths covered wooden tables and the smell of garlic and basil filled the air. Sophia was touched that he had chosen somewhere comfortable rather than impressive. Over plates of homemade pasta and glasses of red wine, they talked for hours. Alexander revealed pieces of himself he typically kept hidden, speaking about the pressure of constant innovation, the isolation that came with success, the way people saw his wealth before they saw him. Sophia shared her own struggles, the sacrifices she made pursuing a career in art, the frustration of working in a world dominated by money rather than passion. I built my company believing that technology could solve any problem, Alexander admitted, his fingers absently tracing patterns on the tablecloth. But I've learned that some things can't be solved with algorithms. Human connection, real understanding. The kind of passion you described this morning, those things require something I've forgotten how to access. Maybe you haven't forgotten, Sophia suggested gently. Maybe you just haven't found the right reason to remember. Alexander's eyes met hers across the table, and the intensity there made her breath catch. Maybe I've been waiting for the right person to remind me. After dinner, they walked through the city streets, neither wanting the evening to end. The night air was cool, and when Sophia shivered slightly, Alexander immediately shrugged off his jacket and draped it around her shoulders. The gesture was simple, but intimate, and Sophia found herself drowning in his scent that clung to the fabric. They stopped in a small park, fairy lights strung through the trees casting gentle illumination. A fountain bubbled quietly nearby, and the city noise faded to a distant hum. Alexander turned to face her, his expression serious and vulnerable in a way she suspected few people ever witnessed. Sophia, he said softly, I need to be honest with you. When I saw you last night at the gallery, something shifted for me. I've spent years keeping people at a distance, building walls because it felt safer than risking real connection. But you walked through those walls like they didn't exist. You challenged me. You saw past the money and the reputation to something real, and I haven't been able to stop thinking about you since. Sophia's heart hammered against her ribs. Alexander, I'm not sure this is a good idea. Our worlds are so different. I can't offer you anything like the life you're accustomed to. You're offering me something far more valuable, he replied, stepping closer. You're offering me truth, honesty, someone who sees me, not my bank account. His hand reached up to cup her face again, thumb tracing her cheekbone with achingly gentle pressure. I know this is complicated. I know there are 1,000 reasons we should walk away right now. But I can't do that. Not without knowing if what I feel is real. What do you feel? Sophia whispered, her body trembling with a mixture of fear and desire. This, Alexander murmured, and then his lips were on hers. The kiss was everything Sophia had never allowed herself to dream about. Gentle at first, tentative, as if Alexander feared she might pull away. But when she responded, melting against him with a soft sound of surrender, the kiss deepened into something passionate and consuming. His arms wrapped around her waist, pulling her body flush against his, and Sophia's hands tangled in his hair, discovering its silky texture while her mind spun with sensation. Alexander kissed like a man starving for connection, pouring years of isolation and loneliness into this one perfect moment. Sophia responded with equal fervor, all her careful control dissolving under the heat of his mouth on hers. They kissed until breathing became difficult, until the world narrowed to just the two of them and the electricity arcing between their bodies. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Alexander rested his forehead against hers. "Come home with me," he said roughly. "I want to know everything about you. I want to spend the entire night learning what makes you smile, what makes you gasp, what makes you feel alive." Sophia knew this was the moment of decision. She could pull back, maintain professional distance, protect herself from the inevitable complications. Or she could leap into the unknown with this brilliant, lonely man who somehow saw her more clearly than anyone ever had. "Yes," she breathed, choosing courage over caution. "Take me home." Hearts on fire, Alexander's penthouse occupied the entire top floor of the city's most exclusive building, but Sophia barely noticed the luxury surrounding them. Her awareness had narrowed to the man beside her, to the way his hand held hers with gentle possession, to the heat in his eyes as the elevator climbed higher and higher. When the doors opened directly into his living space, Alexander didn't give her time to admire the floor-to-ceiling windows or the panoramic city view. He pulled her close, kissing her with renewed urgency as the elevator doors closed behind them. Sophia responded eagerly, her body coming alive under his touch in ways she had never experienced. "I want you to understand something," Alexander said, breaking the kiss to look directly into her eyes. "This isn't casual for me. I don't bring women here. I don't let people into my private space. But with you, everything feels different. I want you here. I want you in my life. Tell me you feel this too." "I feel it," Sophia admitted, her voice shaking with emotion and desire. "It terrifies me, but I feel it." Alexander swept her into his arms, carrying her through the vast space toward his bedroom. The room was surprisingly simple, dominated by an enormous bed with crisp white linens. He set her down gently, his hands trembling slightly as they moved to the zipper of her dress. "I need to know you want this," he said seriously. "That you're choosing this freely, not because of who I am or what I can offer you." Sophia reached up to cup his face, moved by his vulnerability. "I want this. I want you. Not your money or your status. Just you, Alexander. The man who listens when I talk about art. The man who chose a family restaurant over somewhere fancy. The man who kisses me like I'm precious." Something in Alexander's expression cracked open at her words, revealing depths of emotion he typically kept hidden. He kissed her again, slower this time, worshipful, his hands gentle as he helped her out of her dress. Sophia's fingers worked at the buttons of his shirt, marveling at the warmth of his skin, the hardness of muscle beneath her palms. They undressed each other slowly, learning the landscape of bodies that were becoming intimately familiar. Alexander's reverent touch made Sophia feel beautiful and desired in ways she had never experienced. When they finally came together, moving in perfect synchronization, it felt less like physical need and more like souls recognizing each other. Afterwards, they lay tangled in silk sheets, Sophia's head resting on Alexander's chest while he traced lazy patterns on her bare shoulder. "Stay," he murmured into her hair. "Not just tonight. Stay in my life. Let me court you properly. Let me show you that this is real." Sophia wanted to say yes immediately, but fear held her back. Alexander, people will talk. The media will be ruthless. A billionaire dating a junior curator? They'll say I'm using you, that I'm a gold digger who seduced you for access to your wealth. "Let them talk," Alexander said fiercely, pulling her closer. "I don't care what they say. I know the truth. You're brilliant and passionate and real in a way no one in my world ever is. I'm not letting you go because of gossip." For the next 3 weeks, they existed in a perfect bubble of new love. Alexander would send his car to pick Sophia up after work, and they would spend evenings talking about art, arguing about philosophy, making love with increasing passion and tenderness. He began rebuilding his art collection with her guidance, choosing pieces that genuinely moved him rather than merely impressed others. But the bubble couldn't last forever. The first tabloid photos appeared on a Tuesday morning. Sophia arriving at Alexander's building, the two of them kissing in his car. Headlines screamed about the mysterious woman who had captured the billionaire's heart. Within hours, reporters had identified Sophia and began digging into her background. "Junior curator catches billionaire," read one headline. "Gold digger or true love?" questioned another. The articles dissected her financial struggles, implying that she had deliberately positioned herself to trap Alexander. Her co-workers began treating her differently, some with envy, others with thinly veiled contempt. "They're saying I planned this," Sophia told Alexander that night, her voice breaking. "That I researched you and manufactured our entire connection to get access to your money." Alexander pulled her into his arms, fury radiating from his tense frame. "We know that's not true. I pursued you, remember? I'm the one who asked you to consult. I'm the one who couldn't stay away." "But it doesn't matter what's true," Sophia said miserably. "They've decided I'm a calculating opportunist, and nothing will change their minds." The pressure intensified over the following days. Photographers camped outside Sophia's modest apartment building. Her phone rang constantly with media requests. Old acquaintances suddenly wanted to reconnect, clearly hoping for gossip they could sell. Even her colleagues at the gallery began treating her coldly, as if her relationship with Alexander somehow diminished her professional credibility. The breaking point came when her boss called her into his office. "Sophia, I'm afraid we need to discuss your position here," he said uncomfortably. "Some of our major donors have expressed concerns about potential conflicts of interest given your relationship with Mr. Kane. They worry that you might be using your position to influence his collecting, or that he might pressure us to promote you unfairly." "That's ridiculous," Sophia protested. "I've maintained complete professional integrity. Alexander and I keep our relationship separate from my work here." "I believe you," her boss said, though his expression suggested otherwise. "But perception matters in this industry. I'm going to have to ask you to take a leave of absence while we review the situation." Sophia walked out of the gallery in a daze, her career suddenly in jeopardy because she had dared to fall in love with someone wealthy. She sat in a coffee shop for hours, staring at nothing, wondering if Alexander was worth all this chaos. That evening, she went to his penthouse planning to end things. It was the logical choice, the safe choice. She could rebuild her career, reclaim her privacy, return to the comfortable obscurity she had always known. But when Alexander opened his door, the relief and joy on his face stopped her prepared speech. "Thank God you're here," he said, pulling her inside. "I've been going crazy worrying about you. The media has been vicious, and I know it's my fault. I should have protected you better." "You can't protect me from this," Sophia said quietly. "Your life comes with a spotlight that I was never meant to stand in. Maybe we rushed into this too fast. Maybe we should take a step back before things get worse." Alexander's expression shifted to something between pain and desperation. "You're ending this? After everything we've shared?" "I'm being realistic," Sophia said, tears streaming down her face. "Look at what's happening. I'm losing my job. My privacy is destroyed. People hate me for loving you. How can we build anything real on this foundation?" "By refusing to let them win," Alexander said fiercely. He cupped her face in both hands, forcing her to meet his intense gaze. "Sophia, I understand you're scared. I understand this is harder than anything you signed up for. But what we have is real. It's the most real thing I've ever felt. Walking away won't solve anything. It will just prove that the media and the gossips have more power over our lives than we do." "It's not that simple," Sophia protested weakly. "Yes, it is," Alexander insisted. "I love you. I'm in love with you, Sophia Bennett. I want to wake up next to you every morning and fall asleep holding you every night. I want to build a life together where we push each other to be better, where we create something meaningful. The noise outside doesn't matter. Only this matters." He pressed his hand over her heart. "What you feel here, what I feel here." He took her hand and placed it on his own racing heart. Sophia felt her resolve crumbling. "I love you too," she whispered, "but I'm terrified." "Then be terrified with me," Alexander said softly. "Let's face this together instead of running away separately. I promise you we can weather this storm, and when it passes, we'll still have each other." He kissed her then, pouring all his emotion into the connection of their lips. Sophia surrendered to the kiss, to the love she felt, to the terrifying leap of faith that staying with Alexander required. When they moved to his bedroom, their lovemaking was different than before, desperate and tender, each touch a promise to weather whatever challenges lay ahead. The next morning, Alexander made a decision. He called a press conference, something he rarely did, and invited Sophia to stand beside him. She wore one of her own dresses, simple but elegant, refusing to let stylists transform her into someone she wasn't. "I've called you here today to address the speculation about my personal life," Alexander began, his voice carrying the authority that had built empires. "Sophia Bennett and I are in a relationship. She is brilliant, talented, and possesses more integrity than anyone I've ever met. The suggestion that she is somehow using me is not only false, it's insulting to both of us." He turned to look at Sophia, his expression softening. "I pursued her, not the other way around. I fell in love with her intelligence, her passion for art, her ability to see beyond surfaces to deeper truths. Yes, we come from different financial backgrounds, but money doesn't determine worth, and anyone who thinks it does reveals their own shallow values." Sophia found her voice, stepping closer to the microphones. "I won't apologize for loving someone who happens to be wealthy, and I won't let gossip define who I am or what my relationship means. Alexander saw me when most people looked through me. He valued my mind and my heart. That's what matters, not his bank account." The press conference went viral within hours. Public opinion began to shift as people saw them together, witnessed their genuine connection, heard Sophia speak with such intelligence and dignity. Support flooded in from unexpected quarters, particularly from other women who had faced similar judgment for their relationships. But the most important support came from Alexander's actions. He used his influence to ensure Sophia could return to her position at the gallery without stigma. He established a foundation supporting young curators from modest backgrounds, proving his commitment to the art world extended beyond collecting. And he made it clear to everyone in his circle that respect for Sophia was non-negotiable. As weeks turned into months, their relationship deepened and strengthened. They learned to navigate the challenges of their different worlds, finding compromises that honored both their values. Alexander became more engaged with the art community, attending exhibitions and supporting emerging artists. Sophia learned to accept certain aspects of Alexander's lifestyle while maintaining her own identity and independence. On the anniversary of their first meeting at the gallery, Alexander took Sophia back to the same spot where they had stood arguing about Renaissance paintings. The gallery was closed for a private event, lit only by soft spotlights on the artwork. "Do you remember what you said to me that night?" Alexander asked, taking both her hands in his. "You said that great art reveals truth, that it captures moments of human emotion and freezes them for eternity." "I remember," Sophia said, wondering where this was leading. "You were right, but you taught me something more important. The greatest art isn't hanging on walls. It's the life we create together, the love we build, the moments we share." He dropped to one knee, pulling out a small velvet box. "Sophia Bennett, you saw me when I had forgotten how to be seen. You loved me when I had forgotten how to be loved. You challenged me to be better, to feel more, to live fully instead of just existing. Will you marry me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life creating our masterpiece together?" Tears streamed down Sophia's face as she looked at the man kneeling before her. The powerful billionaire who had revealed his vulnerable heart. The lonely genius who had learned to open himself to connection. The partner who stood beside her through every challenge. "Yes," she said, pulling him to his feet and kissing him with all the love and passion she felt. "Yes, Alexander. You're all I want. You've always been all I want." They married 6 months later in a small ceremony that perfectly reflected their partnership. Half the guests came from Alexander's business world, half from Sophia's art community. The celebration honored both their backgrounds, proving that different worlds could merge beautifully when love provided the foundation. Sophia eventually opened her own gallery with Alexander's support, creating a space that showcased emerging artists who might otherwise be overlooked. It became known as a place where talent mattered more than connections, where passion trumped prestige. Alexander served on the board, but let Sophia run it entirely according to her vision, understanding that her independence strengthened rather than threatened their relationship. Years later, as they stood in Sophia's gallery surrounded by art that moved souls and captured truths, Alexander pulled her close and whispered in her ear, "You know what the most valuable piece in my collection is?" "What?" Sophia asked, though she suspected she knew the answer. "You," he said simply. A lifetime with you. The art we create together every single day. That's priceless. And Sophia, who had spent her life studying masterpieces, had to agree. The greatest art was love, imperfect and challenging and absolutely worth fighting for. Their story wasn't a fairy tale. It was something better. It was real, tested by fire, and stronger for every obstacle they had overcome together.